Hi, in this video we will see how CodeWhisperer handles working with Angular project. In order to do that, I will create this simple to-do app that allows to add new to-dos, move them, mark them as done, and delete them. Additionally, it records performed actions and displays them in the section placed on the right side of the screen. Due to the fact that CodeWhisperer doesn't support working with HTML and CSS, I have already prepared this portion of the project, and the only part that I'm missing is business logic and unit tests. So when we move to the Visual Studio Code, you'll see that I have already prepared two Angular modules, but those modules lack an implementation in services, tests, and basically in the files in terms of TypeScript. So let's see how CodeWhisperer will handle finishing this application. Okay, so now let's start with the functionality of adding new to-do. And in order to do that, I will have to implement this method in to-do form component. That's the method that is invoked from the HTML on enter keyApp of the input, but it isn't implemented yet, and I would like to add new to-dos through the to-do list service that also have a add to-do method, but it is also unimplemented. So let's start with the component part, and let's start writing this dot. And okay, so CodeWhisperer is already suggesting to use the service that I have injected in this component and to use a method add to do with this new to do. And the only part I'm missing here is the cleaning of this input new to do, because right now the value would stay in the input and I would like to clean it. And yeah, it is also suggesting this. So far so good. Let's move to the new to-do list service, that add to do method. Okay, so here what I would like to do is create new to do object with ID, name, and done variable based on the name string that I will receive from the component, and I would like to put this to do object to the to-do's behavioral subject. So let's see how CodeWhisperer works. So I will trigger the code suggestions, and it kind of works, but I mean it won't work because, as you can see, here it is trying to create a new to-do object, and the problem is that to-do isn't a object, rather than it isn't a class, it is a type, so you can't create it this way, and you have to use this syntax where you provide a ID, name, and done. Okay, so and here it worked great. And next part, it is adding to the to-do subject. It is also correct, and it is trying to log the action. So it saw that I have already injected action log service, and it is trying to log this action, and it is cool, but action log service doesn't have an ability to log the action. So I will implement this method right now, and we'll see how it works. So declare method, and now we have a method that allows us to add new action. In this action log service, I already have a subject for the action log item, so let's make this method accept an action. So it would accept action type action log item. This suggestion was pretty accurate, and all what I would like to do is add this action to the existing subject. So I will trigger the code suggestions, and yes, it is working kind of nice. Okay, but with this method signature, it won't work in the to-do list service, so we'll have to fix the implementation there. So it is trying to call this method with 2 parameters, and I would have to call this method with a parameter of type action log item with name and optional description. So I would like to name to be added to do, and the description, it would be the to do name. So yeah, maybe let's okay, that looks better, and I think it should work right now. So let's see how it is. So I'm writing test, and yeah, as you can see, we already have a new element in the list, and it is also logged in the action log section on the right side of the screen. But I can't delete it, and theoretically I can mark it as done, but it doesn't strike through because the business logic isn't there yet. So let's see, can we implement the part of where we can mark to-dos as done and where we can delete them. In order to do that, we'll have to move to the component of to-do task. So here I have an icon for deleting the to-do with a remove method, and I also have a checkbox with on done change method. And if we see the TypeScript file, you'll see it isn't implemented yet. So when I want to remove the to-do, I will also have to call the to-do list service, because that's the main place where I operate on the to-dos. So let's try doing so. And I will trigger the CodeWhisperer, and yeah, it is trying to call the to-do list service and using remove method. So now let's move here and try to implement this method here. So I will again trigger the code suggestion, and let's see what it's trying to do. So it is giving only one code suggestion, but it seems kinda accurate. So it is filtering the to-dos and putting the filtered values to the subject, and it is also logging this action with action log service. So I'll accept this suggestion, but one thing that I don't like about it is this t variable in the arrow function, and the fact that it isn't also typed. So I will add an element name to it and type. So, and I will try to trigger the code suggestions, and yeah, it worked kinda okay, but I think we're missing brackets. So yeah, so let's see, will it work? I will add test to do, and I will delete it. And as you can see, we'll also have the action log for the to do deletion. Okay, so now let's try to implement the functionality that will allow us to mark to do as done, and it will be similar to the removal of to do. So here I'll trigger the code suggestion, you can see, CodeWhisperer is suggesting to use to-do list service and the method toggle done. I believe that's not the name of the method that I have declared in this service, but we have another code suggestions, and this one is trying to use the method update to do. And again, I don't think that's the name of the method that I have declared in the service, because here I have a method set to do done with this signature, so it doesn't work that great, but okay, so I will remove this part and I will again trigger the code suggestion. Maybe it will work better. Not really. So I'll write this by hand, so set to do done, and this method is taking a to do, so it is working correctly, and I think these suggestions were kind of good, so I will move to the method implementation in the service and I will try to do this. So in order to mark to do, we'll have to find the to do in the existing subject and modify it and set new value of the subject. So let's trigger the code suggestion and see how the CodeWhisperer will work. So it's marking to do as done and it is logging the action, so nah, it won't work. But there are also another suggestions. Yeah, but they won't do. So I will start with writing a code that will trigger the actions on these to-dos, and it looks better. So as you can see, it is putting a new state of the to-dos. That's good, and the state is the current state that is changed if the element is equal to past to do. I would probably change that for the ID evaluation, but again, that's kind of okay. Yeah, so I'm not sure if I like this part, so I will go with this close, but other than that, this looks kind of okay. So let's see will it work. And again, CodeWhisperer generated the log action, set to do done, description name. I'm not the biggest fan of this name of the action because we are either setting it done or undone. So maybe let's try with ternary operator and we'll see how it works from here. Okay, so if done is true, the name would be marked as done, and if done is false, the name would be marked as undone. Okay, so that looks kind of okay. Let's see how it works. So test 1, we can mark it as done, marked to do as done, test 1, marked to do as undone. So yeah, it worked kind of okay. So here CodeWhisperer had more troubles, but overall I think it worked okay. Let's try to implement the last missing functionality, which will be the changing position of to do. So as you can see right now, I can drag and drop them, but when I drop the to do, it doesn't change its position. So in order to fix that, I will have to move onto the to-do list component and implement this drop method. And I would like to call the service from here, but let's trigger the code suggestions. And yeah, it is trying to use move item in array. That's kind of good suggestion, but it won't work in this structure of project because this method is a method from the component library that I'm using, but I don't want to use it, so I'll comment it and trigger another code suggestion. And now it seems better because it is calling the to-do list service with the move to do. It is calling the move to do method with 2 parameters, and as you'll see, it is accepting the from and to do number. So all we have to do from here is implementing this method. And again, I triggered code suggestions, and okay, we've got some code. It is creating a to-dos array from the existing one. That's cool. And then it is taking the from position, splicing an array and putting the new value. I'm not the biggest fan of this solution, but I think it should work, so let's find out. And again, it has added the log by itself, and it is looking okay. So let's add foo bar bus and change the position of foo to the last element, and yeah, it is working. As you can see, I have the log of move to do foo, but maybe I would like to change the name a little bit more. Move to do, so I will use the string template. Move to do from, and I would like to format it this way, so +1, and I will trigger, okay, code suggestion. Yeah, it is kind of cool. Maybe I will add the hash before, and let's see how it will work right now. So foo bar bus, and when I move foo from the first position to the third, I have the log that move to do from first to third and the name of the to do. Okay, so now let's start with the writing some tests for action log service. It is very simple service that has a action subject and log action method. So let's move on to the test file, and I would like to write a test that will check if it is initialized properly. So it not should log action, should have proper initial state, yeah. And expect service log. I would like to expect, but service actions value to equal, and not an empty list, but rather a initial action. I have already prepared this action here. And yeah, as you can see, this test is passing. So let's add another test. Each should add new action. That's a very reasonable test, and it is trying to create a new action log item. Yes, I would like to add a description for it. Some description, that's cool. and service add action. It is calling add action method, and we have a log action method. So other than that, it seems kind of cool, but we are missing some closing brackets, I think, and another one. Yeah. And right now the test is passing. So yeah, I think for working with simple unit tests for the services, it works really great. So now let's try to write some tests for the components that will interact with HTML. Now I would like to generate some tests for the action log component, and this component has a list of actions. The list has a class actions, and it should have the number of child equal to the number of actions, and each child should contain the name and the description of the action. So let's start by writing the test. And okay, so in this test I am mocking the actions log service for the component in the way that it has two mocked action log items. So each should display action, the name is okay, and yeah, it is giving me some code suggestions. I don't think they will work because it is trying to find the list item and I don't have it here, so maybe use a query selector dot actions in order to go for this component, and from here we can go to the children, and laugh. Yeah, so now we're checking if the number of child nodes of this action list is equal to 2. Yeah, and it actually is, but what we can do is also check if the first and the second element if they contain the proper text. So let's const list, and maybe let's make it that way, so in the one line, and list and expect list children. Okay, so we're expecting the first element content to be test action, and it is correct, and the second element another action, that's also okay. So I would also like to check for the description, so let's see if CodeWhisperer would suggest that. Yeah, it is suggesting this also. Yeah, so I think when it comes to the tests, especially when they contain the test data in this same file, it is working really nice. Now let's try to wrap up this little test. So let's start with the biggest problem. So obviously CodeWhisperer doesn't support HTML and CSS, so we won't get any support in this area. But when it comes to the working with the TypeScript files, I think those code suggestions were pretty decent. Yeah, it has some problems with instantiating an object of a type, because it tried to do this with a new keyword, like it was a class, not a type, but other than that, I think it was okay, and I think it was trying to invoke a method of a service that doesn't existed. So yeah, I think that this tool is kind of lacking type awareness, maybe type awareness outside of the file that it is working on, but generally it is working kind of okay. And when it comes to the testing, I think that's the place where it really shines, because when testing services that doesn't interact with HTML, it was really amazing. And when I was testing a component, the only problem it had was the way that it was querying the element. But after fixing that, it basically generated all the test code for me. So yeah, I think writing tests is the place where this tool really shines. So if you're interested in testing CodeWhisperer by your own, I have already recorded a video showing how to integrate this tool into Visual Studio Code. And if you already tested it and have some thoughts and opinions about it, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. Thanks, bye.